Welcome to the world of stand-up. How you been?
I've been good, man.
Yeah?
I've been good.
Are you Supra?
I am Supra all the way.
Okay. Dude, your shit's popping. It's blowing up.
I hope so. I mean, I'm trying to...
you know.
Well,
Humility's not your strong point, Johnny. We got it.
Yeah, I mean, ironically, man, I continue to put myself in rooms where I'm a small fish.
Yeah.
And so I do that obviously because if I'm perceivably here, right? Not that my value is any less, just maybe the results, then I can learn so much. But it also keeps me a little bit humble to know that, like, whoa, you know, there's so much more I could do.
Yeah. So inevitably, though, you will be at the top of the heap. Are you ready for that?
I'm ready, man.
Okay.
I mean, in my mind, I've been ready. I think that I've done the inner work where, you know, I think a lot of people sometimes have this fear of success where if you really kind of take those layers off, I think that I believe that I've done that work and I'm ready for whatever's coming.
I want to talk about that because I don't know if people, my opinion isn't that people fear success. I think they fear judgment. And that the success brings judgment, and so they act like they're scared of success and that sabotages everything, which ironically is the worst form of judgment because it's self-judgment.
I agree, dude, 100%. I think it's the same as when people fear failure. It's the same.
Yeah.
It's not the actual failure that they fear. It's the judgment and criticism that might come with it. Same thing, success. So I always tell some of my clients who are not considering this, right? At some of our events that you've been to, we bring people to look at Ferraris and Lambos and some cool stuff.
Which, by the way, those are why I bought my two cars. So
Right.
thank you for that.
You're welcome, man. They're dope. And, you know, people go into this dealership and they've never really considered, you know, sitting in one of those cars. And then all at once, they're like, that desire starts to build. But then I ask them to consider what it would feel like if they were to take that Lambo off the lot and drive to Thanksgiving at their parents' house, wherever that is. Right? What's their sister going to say? What's their brother going to say? What's their grandma going to say? What's their parents who may have been middle class their whole lives going to say when you're driving a Lambo up to the private jet terminal and your life is completely different? So a lot of people, when they start to consider that, they get like this feeling of like, whoa, that's different than who I am. And if they never become that, they'll never have that.
Yeah. I'll share this story with you because it made me proud of my wife. Okay. So, you know, I do stand-up comedy. Mm-hmm. It's kind of my thing. And I am not the normal comic. Like, I go into that room, and I live a different life. I'll just put it that way by being nice. Mm-hmm. And I've gotten some shit from a lot of those comics from, like, being considered ostentatious because of the lifestyle that I live and the ways that I've shown that. Mm-hmm. I had a friend of mine he's a hilarious comic. He's going to be on the show at some point here in the near future. And he came over a couple nights ago. This was a week and a half ago. And he was kind of ribbing me a little bit about, look, we get it. Mm-hmm. You don't have to be so brash about it. We get it, you know. And Amy fucking mama bared this shit. She's like, shut the fuck up, dude. Mm. People that don't achieve have that attitude. Mm-hmm. Like, when you work your ass off to get to a point, you want to show it off because you don't think that it's the thing that you're showing off. That thing manifests all of the work, every risk you took, the decisions you had to make that scare the shit out of you, they accumulate to this point where now you have this different life and this different lifestyle with cooler toys and everything. And she was just like, yeah, you can sit back down. It was awesome. I was like, yeah, that's exactly right.
I love that, man. I mean, look, we all work hard. We all have, you know, different backgrounds. We have different stories. But when you put the work in and you achieve and you're just showing off your life, that's beautiful to people because what my hope is people will aspire to become more because the world needs more winners, right? And what we get into when I look on social media feed, I see these people sharing how terrible their lives are. And it's almost like this competition of how much it sucks and how broke they are and how much, you know, pain they can endure. And I'm like, that's not helping anybody, right? And I just was in a room of 55.
You were hanging out with Tim Tebow, weren't you?
Yeah, 55 entrepreneurs. Tim Tebow was speaking, and a lot of people can say whatever they want about Tim Tebow. He gets a lot of hate for his beliefs and whatever, but he's fueled by purpose, right? And so in this room, there was 55 people, and we raised $1.7 million to save sex-trafficked girls. And in contrast, Tony Robbins, I love Tony Robbins. He had an event that had 3,000 to 5,000 people the same weekend. And they put out a video showing that out of those people, they raised 1.2 million. So it took them 3,000 to 5,000 people to raise 1.2, where we did it with probably 30 donors.
Yeah.
And the beautiful part about this is, like, you can, like, if you're going to make a difference in this world, you can't do it by not succeeding wildly. And so in this room, I got to see people writing ridiculous checks, right? And believe me, if you look at their homes and you look at their lives on Instagram, they got beautiful lives. But you know what else they're doing? They're making a difference. And so for me, that just like motivated me even further. It's like I left that thing and I'm like, John, you got to do more. Like, you got to do so much more because you are capable. And I believe everybody's capable, but a lot of people have given up on that belief. You haven't. So like for you, you have to go do more, right? Because there's so many people out there that, yes, they could do it if they would do it, but that belief is gone. You have the belief. I have the belief. So for me and you, it's like go time, right? And if we can tie it to whatever purpose, for me, you know, like that touched my heart because I have a daughter. It's like, dude, I now have a number that is associated with a life. And now I know, like, if a life costs $1,200, now I know every time I write a check how many girls' lives I'm changing.
That's great, man. There's something to be said for that conversation of belief. And you know, one of the big things that I learned in Upgrade, I've talked a lot about Upgrade on the show, is you know, changes in behavior don't start by modifying your behavior. Changes in your behavior start by modifying your identity. And you know, personally speaking, one of the biggest challenges that I've been experiencing is trying to figure out how to blend all this together as a comic. Dude, doing stand-up comedy lights me up, dude.
Yeah.
It's the funnest thing in the world to be in front of a bunch of strangers and watching them like hold their guts because they're laughing so much. Like, it's a drug like I've never had before. And I don't know how like I want to feel purpose-filled and purpose-driven on that, but sometimes I don't. So I do other things that have that, and that just kind of gets to be the toy. But I also realize that if I do that right, I have way more like shadow to cast that's amazing in that way.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know why I'm bringing that up. It's more just like I believe I can do it. I just don't know how yet.
Yeah, dude. I mean, for you, I just want to give you props because, like, I remember when you set out on this journey to be a stand-up comic, and I don't know if you were good or not good or whatever.
Sucked, bro.
Right? So my point is like I got the feeling through some of your posts that like it was not. I never thought it would be easy, but I know you went through it, and like you believed in yourself enough for whatever reason. Not to say that there wasn't any doubtful moments, but for whatever reason, you showcase this one step in front of the other to now you're funny as shit, and you get a lot of people showing up to your shows. You're headlining, and it's like I love that story more than someone who was just anointed to be like funny. And I don't actually believe that anybody is like. What people don't understand is how much work and how much doubt you had to go through and how much courage you had to have to get to this point. So there's that. But then I would say that if you find something, and Tim Tebow put it like, if you find something that breaks your heart in the world, right? Where he's talking about these girls and I like associate that with my daughter who's 4.5. And then I'm like, I have tears streaming down my face. And it's like, I feel purpose in Supra, right? I do. However, like I'm driven, like Supra is my ability to make a life for myself. But then it got layered this weekend where if I go bigger with that, then I'm able to fulfill other purposes that might not directly be related, where I can then either A, donate some of my time or donate a big check where I know within that check and those numbers exactly how many lives I just saved. And once I write that check, it's like, dude, go win more. And so I would say with your comic, you have the ability to build yourself a brand. You're touching people. And then if you layer that with some sort of other purpose, it's like, dude, that's fulfillment in my mind.
Dude, that's great advice, man. I hadn't considered the two of those, but it's true. It's like it's layered.
Yeah.
And it actually makes perfect sense because as some of the lessons that I've, the learnings, as William would call them, is that you can be putting a bunch of attention over here in your life and not getting any sort of return out of that, but all of a sudden something over here will come in and completely show you the value that you were giving out energetically and reward you. So it's like, it's not a one-to-one. It's like, I can give to this. I can go into comedy. Comedy costs me money right now.
Yeah.
I don't make a ton of money on doing it. And the way that I want to do it, it costs. But everything over here is allowing that to be the thing. And then there's other stuff that's happening too. So I've seen that with you and Supra. I've seen that with lots of people where it's like sometimes things just work out in an unexpected way. And it's kind of magical in a way.
It is magical, man. It always starts with one step in front of the other. And I think that, it's a journey too. Like the number one core value at Supra is always give yourself permission to win. And the reason it's give yourself permission to win is I see in the marketplace, just see people, and it's like they don't give themselves permission to win at all. It's like they want to endure pain and suffering, and and for whatever reason, it's a competition how much suffering they can endure. So the first step is giving yourself permission to win, right? And I've seen your life, and ironically, you were the first podcast that I had ever been on back in your big ass house in Sandy that day. I didn't know who you were, and here we are years later, right? And so I give you a lot of credit for a lot of stuff, but we've been through different parts. Like I've been through shutting gyms down. I've been through taking a PayPal loan out to pay my employees when I made zero. And so I went through the season of like grind and not very much result, right? And then all of a sudden I started to, create some of that success, and going such a long time without it, then it was like, oh, I got to buy the Bentley. I got to buy the, G-Wagon. I got to buy the R8. I got to buy this watch. I'm in here wearing Dior shoes. And it's like, that's okay, right? That's okay. And so you almost like, I seen myself go through this where it's like, I need to have all this stuff because I deserve it. I want it, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. But then I've seen people who've ascended that, where it's like, okay, like they've gone through that phase. Now it's like, how can I make this money matter? And I think that's what this weekend that I just got through really kind of solidified, because I was in that kind of gray area of like transitioning through, this last 2 years of my life to like, okay, cool. Like that's super fun and I'm super grateful. But like, what is this all for? And then, I feel like people go through those layers and those processes.
When do you think, do you have a specific pivotal moment where you realized that something shifted for you and you did finally give yourself permission to win?
Yeah, it was upgrade. We did, one of the exercises, parts integration, where I was just out of alignment unconsciously. So it was like, on one hand, I wanted to win very big, but on the other hand, I didn't feel deserving or worthy of it. And that's just programming from a very young age, right? Like I grew up middle class. I couldn't possibly conceive like what would happen if I was to succeed wildly. And in an instance, I felt that congruence take over my whole body with one of Williams' exercises. I had tears streaming down my face. I was like, dude, that was so weird. And I was just like, I went from being afraid of criticism and judgment and putting myself out there to just being 100% aligned and congruent with who I was. People can say whatever the fuck they want about me, and it's like, I know who I am, and I'm going this way. And in that moment, business started to explode.
Interesting. So it was just like, it was immediate change.
It was immediate change within. The results took, kind of a lag time of, there's marketing and skill set that is also involved there. But really, really quickly, I was able to then put myself on camera, do the podcast. There was a shift in my podcast for 75 episodes. It was like I was up in my head, and, if there was a lag time of what I wanted to say to what came out of my mouth, because I was considering, in that microsecond, what somebody might think of it, to like, here I am, this is who I am, and I'm 100% okay with it. I love me, and nobody can do me better than me, so I'm just going to rip it. And as soon as that came across on camera, in social, in my writing, in my video, the marketing kind of took off, and that was the thing.
Okay. I like that. I've had this thought, and I want to kind of pick your brain about this. A lot of the work that is done at Upgrade, and Upgrade's not the only organization that does this, but they're one of the best ones, relative to subconscious programming. When intellectually you start to think about what makes up your day-to-day, the thoughts that you have, why did you park in that parking spot? Why did you choose those clothes? What's the process for you? Like when you shower, what do you wash first? There's all this automatic shit that's just really low level that make up our behaviors, right? But then it also gets deeper into why we would or wouldn't invest money in ourselves, or why we would or wouldn't allow ourselves to get into a certain room, or to make the phone call, or to try to close the sale, whatever it is. I've noticed that with a lot of that parts and integration stuff, that sometimes when a program gets pulled out, that it leaves a void, and sometimes other programs can kind of collapse in on that void a little bit, and you still got to go back in and fix some of that stuff because you got multiple things happening that are fucking with you, and you pull one big one out and it works for a little bit, and then some things kind of tweak. I noticed that after the first upgrade for me because I had my biggest month ever 6 weeks after that first thing last November when it was. And then doubt started coming back in, and I started getting in my head about stupid shit. And that's when I had I bought my car, and I was all excited. And then the wear off of the car, and I made that first payment, and I'm like, fuck, okay, I'm in it now. And like all this stuff started kind of rattling with me again. And I remember talking to Michael about it, and he kind of shared with me, well, this is this, and he, we walked through the resolution formula and other things. But I was wondering if that had been an experience that you'd had as well, where like, it's not just like there's 8 programs. There's like a fucking shitload of them. And you got to be actively pursuing that sort of mental acuity and that congruence all the time. I didn't get it at first when William would say that, like, we can integrate your conscious and your subconscious. And he's like, and we can do it again. I'm like, well, why would you need to do it again? And I'm like, I know now why. Yeah. Because your brain's like fucking with you the whole time.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I notice instantaneous change, but at the same time, like, faith is a verb, right? And so walk in faith, right? And it doesn't mean that, like, I never have doubt come up. It means that I always look at this like video games. Like, you're on level 1. You can't beat the boss at the end of level 1, right? Until you beat them, and then it's like, oh, I know what to do. Like, level 1 isn't scary anymore. Now you're at level 2, right? And so for me, like, I accelerated really, really quickly like you did. But then I got to a point that was kind of hitting my new comfort zone, right? Yeah. And so I have to remind myself, because sometimes, like, William is one of the most visionary people, and I have the chance to know him really well. And he lives in Scottsdale now, like I do, and so we hang out a lot. But he'll, like, say some stuff, and I'll be like, dude, this guy is completely bananas. Like, how he thinks so big, right? And I'm a big thinker, so in conversation sometimes I'll feel that, like, that pushes me very uncomfortable, and, like, those doubts will start flooding in. I'm like, I know I can do this, but, like, that is like a whole new level. And so I would just tell people watching or listening, like, this is a continuous process. It's not like you take one red pill and it's like, that's it for the rest of your life.
You're
like,
on a daily dose.
You are on a daily dose, and you have to have faith and courage over and over and over again, right? But the stuff in the beginning that was holding us, like, hostage, like, you can break those chains and you can fly for a bit, and you just have to keep reminding yourself, you know the process, you know how to do it, but it doesn't mean you do it once and, like, that's it.
Dude, as you were describing that, I had this thought of, like, there's like a bird in a cage, and then you break out of the cage, and it's just a bigger cage. You got more, and then there's a bigger cage. So, like, you're always gonna be in some sort of cage, it would seem, until you're not, obviously, but, like, it just gets bigger. Because one of the things that has been a big surprise for me, and intellectually, I always understood it. It's like when you talk about limiting beliefs surrounding, for example, money. You'll have a certain belief set at $50,000 a year, and it will be different when you're at $50,000 a month, and it will be different at $500,000 a month. But when you're in those spaces, you don't realize that, because you're in the thick of, like, well, I like this space, I'm going to keep going, or maybe you don't like the space when you're broke. But I found that to be interesting. That like, the video game analogy is perfect. Every level has similar challenges. Your skill set to handle those challenges makes it easier or more difficult to handle. But there's always going to be some sort of doubt. There's always going to be a moment where you have to act in spite of fear. There's always going to be a moment where you have to bet on yourself and realize, I could lose, but I could also win.
Right.
And then there is going to be a moment where you win. And you have to know how to handle winning. That's been something that's been really curious to me too, is like watching, some people don't know how to handle winning.
Right.
That's why that's one of the things they're afraid of. It's like they get into a spot where, like, they should be top of the world, loving everything, and they just can't handle the win.
Yeah.
And then they talk shit on themselves and they sabotage it, and then it becomes the story that they tell, oh, I used to do that. I had this one thing.
Yeah.
And then they don't do it again.
Yeah, man. I do that. I mean, there's so many little micro programs that you're going to have to go through as that ascension happens. One of them, like you just said, is like those different monetary values that you hit on a monthly basis. Like, whatever that number is for people watching, right? That there's a number that would be like, whoa, that would be awesome, right? My first number was $100K a month. When I hired William and wrote him that check, it was like, he's like, what do you want? What would make this the most worth it thing you've ever spent money on? And I was like, 100K a month. Came out of my mouth before he could even finish the sentence. Because to me, that was like, dude, I'm balling. There's no more problems. Like, how could I possibly have any problems if I was making that much money? Right. And it's like, little did I know, like we hit that number and it's like, oh, they're like, okay, those other problems kind of disappeared, but there's new ones.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, when you make that kind of money, everything costs more too.
Yeah, dude. And my taste costs more, everything. But the point is like, you got to make that number small. Yeah. That's why I need to hang around people who, have been ridiculously more successful than me. In the room, just barely, there was this couple, they're 30 years old. They were in the fitness industry. They had a company. The woman was the face. The husband was kind of the operations behind the scenes. And I think they just sold this company for $100 million.
Wow. And 30 years old?
30 years old.
That's awesome.
Right. And so it's like, they're asking me about my business and stuff. And I'm like, oh, I thought I was a big shot. I thought my watch was dope. That dude's watch was way doper. And I was like, and they were just sharing like and giving free advice. Right. And I was like, whoa, like whatever number I thought like I was balling on, like, is this small? And for me, that's so helpful to like be around people where you're not top dog. But the problem is like most people want to be that leader and they want kind of to be the alpha in the room. And I know myself, the biggest growth has come when whatever number in my head I think I'm doing good at kind of gets squashed in a moment's time. Because it's like that belief just got blown up about what's possible. Because I'm like, dude, those guys did it, right? Like there's no reason I can't do it. I'm just not executing at whatever level they executed at, right?
I think it's good to be both. I think that to have moments in your life where you are the top dog, but that's a smaller piece, and then you have the ones where you're like the small fish in the bigger pond. I think that I know for me that I've learned better how to follow being a leader because I see the different struggles of people that I'm associated with, whether it be podcast clients or because I still do consulting clients, and where I'm like, oh, I'm in a position there of like helping them as a mentor of sorts. And I really relish those moments because it allows me to self-reflect on if I'm preaching something that I'm actually doing or not. And if it's still good advice and I'm not, it's an immediate feeling of incongruency. And I'm like, I got to change that shit right away because advice isn't bad. I just got to be a better vessel. While at the same time then like associating with people that are just balling out and just like realizing like that mindset, like being around that mindset is an energetic like attraction. It's like, dude. How do you get there, man?
You got to be tough too.
Yeah, you do.
You got to be tough because like a lot of people walk into those rooms and they shrink into the back seat in the corner and feel like they have nothing. They have no value. Dude, I'm value. Like I can walk into a room of a person who's sold a company for 100 million or 500 million, and I'm like, I know I'm value, right? I am value. So I'm not going to shrink in the back and act like I'm just some little idiot that has nothing to provide to the group. I just know as far as results are concerned monetarily, and that's not about who I am, that they're not actually better as a human than me. They've just known something and executed better in business, right? And I can kind of separate that where I think a lot of people aren't tough enough to be in those rooms because it's like their ego gets smacked. They sit in the corner and they're like, I'm an idiot. Like I don't know anything. And I'm like, and so I think that you have to have that leadership quality where you can go into rooms and know that, you're valuable no matter what result you're getting. You can take from the group, but you can also provide value. And like you said, there's almost like, I look at myself in the middle because I have groups that I'm mentoring and they're aspiring. They want to be where I'm at. So I'm helping them come up here, but I'm also like pulling from people above here. And I think that that's kind of a beautiful thing to always be in the middle. Like you said, it's like hang out with people who are completely ballers in that area, but then also help the people who want to be like you.
Dude, I kind of learned how to hack that system, dude.
Yeah.
It's making them laugh.
Dude,
put me in a room of fucking super ballers. I'll be the one they're talking to because they're all going to be rolling.
Laughter is amazing, dude.
Dude, it's so powerful.
Yeah.
And I think that has been a part of my development as I stopped shunning that as a gift that I have.
Yeah. I mean, that's awesome. That's a superpower for you. So for you knowing that, it's like put you in any room and you can use your skill set with rapport and other stuff, laughter, to be, someone of value, but also somebody that like wants to give you a hug and be like, what can I do for you?
Yeah, it's an endearing thing. Well, this is something that not a lot of people realize, and this boggles my mind. So if you look at, listen to TED Talks or speeches or whatever, people like to use dramatic stories and trauma and things like that to bind the listener into the moment, like to emotionally get them into the moment. They tell the rags to riches story. They tell the I overcame the whatever. And it's always this emotional sort of pull because you're sitting in there and you're just like, you're in it, right? If you look at the brain science associated with that, it does that. It pulls you in. But you know what does it 10 times better than that? Laughter. That's why you can remember comedy bits you heard as a kid, because it puts it both in short-term and long-term memory when you're laughing while you're learning. And so the most impeccable way, truly impeccable way to get people to remember and learn is by keeping them laughing. And it's like, it's not any more difficult to learn how to make people laugh than it would be to tell a really dramatic story. It's just, it's more intimidating for some people, which is interesting to me.
Well, it is. It is. I mean, humor is a skill. Like, people that do it beautifully can be serious and all of a sudden drop something that's like super hilarious. Like in the group, we had an interview style where we were like, you know, asking each other questions, and then we were asked to share like one gift that was that we got from the partner, right? And everybody got up, and the first person that went was like, I was with Bryce. I just want to tell you he's the greatest partner there is in the group. And everyone's like, haha, you know, it's funny. And so then everybody started to do it. Like, nah, my partner's the greatest. Yeah. And then this one guy, he's like, you know, and I know all of you guys said that your partner was the greatest. I'll just say, like, this guy right here is extremely average. And like the room just busted because we thought it was going one way in that redirect, right? And it's just like laughter when people aren't, you know, expecting it. It breaks the ice, draws you in, you instantly like that person, right? And I think that
the left turn,
But you gotta be smart. You can't be the class clown. Right? Like, you can go into a room and someone's like, oh, I'm funny, and they're just like class clown about it. It's like you get some laughs, but you don't get the respect. You have an ability to get the laughs and then, you know, be a wise sage at the same time and have a deep conversation. And I think the combination of that is dynamic.
Well, dude, that for me is where like the real opportunity for true laughter is like to be in the moment of something really serious and you're telling a story and are you having a, you know, some sort of anecdote or whatever, and then you just take that little left turn and they're not seeing it come at all. And it's
awesome. Yeah. Right. And some comics or people who try to be funny or are even funny is always at the expense of themselves. Yeah. And so it's like you do it really well where you're not going to
do that.
I don't like it either.
I think it's cheap.
Yeah.
I think like I did write a bit about this, and Amy I've never done it because it seems douchey, but like you go to comedy shows and like the fat guy's talking about how fat he is and the ugly guy's talking about how ugly he is and everything. And like, I've been like, what am I going to talk about, man? How great my abs are? Like how big my dick is, dude? Like what the fuck, you know?
Should I just like
just fucking lay it out, guys? Like, hey, it's hilarious. It's got a bigger vein here than yours. Like, but I really pay attention to like how I say the words that I say, even when they're funny. And sometimes there's self-deprecation.
For sure.
Because I don't believe the self-deprecation.
Yeah.
But a lot of times like comedians will be talking shit on themselves. Like the fat guy, he knows he's fat. He saw himself this morning in the mirror and it was gross. And now he's going to joke about it. You can't tell me, bro, that you actually think you're great. So anyway, I don't think that's very helpful. But at the same time, like I've noticed, it's been a cool sort of exercise because as I do what you do, I do what other people do. Like you look at the people that are at the top of the game and you copy what they do. Like, you know, it's a sincere form of flattery when you borrow what they're doing right. And I've been able to make some friends with some of the biggest comedians in the planet. And they will tell me, dude, if you keep doing this, it will work this way. Comedy is really top heavy when it comes to like the people that are fucking crushing and they murder. And then there's a bunch of mediocre shit in the middle. And then there's a massive sea of bottom fellers. And the only difference truly in the top and the bottom is belief and execution.
Probably across every
some
vertical.
Some of the funniest people that I've ever met, you'll never know. Because they don't have the mindset to be able to put themselves in a position to be heard.
Could be a worthiness. Could be a deservingness.
All of it.
All of it.
All of it, dude. And that makes me sad because there is a part of, just like with everything, like there's certain talents that you come with, that you're born with, and then others that you can develop. And then if you're wise, you develop your talents that you're given you and become truly great and masterful at them. In comedy, in business, there's so many people that like have a natural knack and then they fuck it up. They just don't allow themselves to succeed.
I think it's important too because, I mean, when we talk about this stuff, it's not like you're driving down the road and are consciously saying like, I don't deserve this or I'm not worthy, right? It's the stuff.
That's a shitty declaration.
It's the stuff that was programmed into you somehow, and it could have been from the time you were 0 to 7 or 7 to 14. But there was a decision and a belief that was created that then is the mechanism driving all the behaviors, which you were talking about. And it could be like, for whatever reason, your parents, weren't there, or like didn't show up to your games, or didn't care enough to go to the dance recital. And you're like, I don't even deserve this from my parents. I don't deserve anything from the world. And that belief was inserted or programmed in at a time when you didn't know any better. And then as an adult, 35, 45, 55-year-old dude or chick, you're like, your life is being directed because you never did the work necessary to go to that origination of that belief, work it out so that you do feel deserving. And it's just such true. I feel for people knowing this, how this actually works now. It's like the message of someone screaming into this camera or like yelling at, just be like, do more. Like the coaches are like, do more. All you got to do is blah, blah, blah. They're not considering that there's a reason why that person's not doing that thing. And so as a coach, like what I really love is that we get the chance to go back to the root, and then the rest of the stuff is easy, whether that's in fitness or the same thing could be said for business or comedy.
Yeah. It's been interesting for me because just, sharing some personal stuff, my parents, they still live together, but they're divorced now. Mm. And they'd been married for 48 years when this all happened. Mm-hmm. And they tried couples therapy for a little bit, and now they're in individuals therapy. I had a conversation with my mom last night. It was the first one I'd had in several weeks. Just full disclosure, it's heavy to talk to them through that. And sometimes I just I got to protect my shit, man. I'm not in the mood to do this right now. But I had a great conversation with her, and I could see this transition in her of self-awareness where it was changing to where she was looking at the past decades of her life and realizing key moments where she didn't do the thing that was best for her or didn't. And same with my dad. My dad didn't do the thing that he knows he should have done. And that the accumulation of all of that over the years created it to where 48 years into a marriage, they were looking at each other and go, sorry.
Yeah.
And that's pathetic. Mm-hmm. And it's sad.
It is.
And, when you consider you don't have to wait that long. Mm-hmm. That's why it's been something that it's so important for you to take your own development and your own success in your own hands. Mm-hmm. Don't wait for somebody else. You're not going to be crowned by somebody else. You don't need to get the promotion to be considered successful. Fucking go do it yourself. Mm-hmm. Figure it out. What do you want? I remember when I first started upgrading, I did those lists, right? The 100 list of experiences. That was really challenging because I got to 20 or 30 down there. I'm like, well, fuck, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I started breaking through this, well, I don't need that. That would be what I'm like, whoa. Mm-hmm. Need? This ain't about need, bro. And the coming from I think it was called a witness perspective in my mind, where I'm witnessing my thoughts. I'm witnessing the responses to my thoughts. And I'm like, wow, bro. Yeah. That's the most unhealthy shit I've ever seen,
man. That one exercise is so big for people because I was the same as you. It's almost like I had this sense of virtue by getting to 20 and not needing anything else. Yeah. And it's dude, I have everything, man. I got love. That
sense of virtue. I'm so much better. I don't need more.
Yeah. I'm I don't need 5 cars. Right. And then you go to the list and it's well, if you could have whatever you wanted, then you could have 20 cars if you wanted to. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so that exercise really challenges people because it pushes you up against your boundary to feel deserving, to expand the possibility of what if,
I've noticed too that when you see others that are doing that ostentatiously in a way, it pushes that too. I've looked at William, what does he have, 11 cars now or some shit?
11, dude.
Yeah. And I'm I'm uncomfortable for him. And that's the weirdest thing ever. I'm why would I give a shit about what this guy does with his money? But I don't know nothing about other than the fact that he gets everything he wants.
Same, dude. I mean, I'm in proximity to him and I'm dude, what are you going to do with all these cars? That's stressing me out.
I've been to their house now. He needs that other one to be finished soon so he could park them somewhere.
I'm dude, you're stressing me out. How often do you drive the car now that's in? He's I haven't drove it in 2 months. I'm yeah. I mean, the cool part, I'm inspired by his ability to live what he teaches. Oh, right. And it's broken my mindset wide open, which has been incredible for business, relationship, and multiple other things.
I love that, dude. I've never, as a friend of yours, I've never asked this. What? This is kind of an off topic, but it's not really. What makes you laugh? Like, what do you find funny?
Man, what is funny, man? Like, I'll tell you.
This is hilarious for me right now. You're like,
I'm thinking about different movies and ones that have just kind of like rocked my world. You know, one of the funniest comedians that I think I've ever watched, like a comedy routine and just died over, is Martin Lawrence. That dude cracks me up for whatever reason.
Yeah.
There was a movie, Nothing to Lose.
Yeah.
I watched that thing probably 50 times, and that dude is just hilarious in
He's
that
still
movie.
funny.
So like from movie perspectives, I probably find stuff that's funny like a lot of other people find, but there's, that one sticks out. And then, Wedding Crashers is one that I could watch 500 times. Vince Vaughn is like, I want to hang out with Vince Vaughn for a weekend, dude.
Yeah.
And that dude, just looking at him makes me laugh.
He's the best, dude.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I heard that like on his line sometimes it's just complete off the cuff, whatever he wants to say. Is that true?
Yeah. Well, and he does stand up as well. People don't know this.
Yeah.
He actually had this was, I want to say 4 or 5 years ago, he had a tour that he sponsored that was like a bunch of really great comedians that was like the Vince Vaughn stand-up comedy tour. And he went around all the country. I don't know what he's doing more. I know that he kind of ruffled some feathers in Hollywood because he's a conservative.
Yeah.
And
good for him.
you can't be that in Hollywood. And
good for him. Go Vince. I'll buy all your shit now. I'll buy all your kids.
Shit. So like they get,
Let's go, baby. Let's go. Dude, that question's funny because I had this realization hanging out with a mutual friend, I think, Keith Yackee.
Dude, he's the best. Dude.
I mean, I didn't know you knew him.
Yeah.
And so I know that now I know the story, but I got to hang out with him after being on his show, and we just hit it off, dude. After the show, he took me to this place where it's a Monday.
Did he get you drunk?
Dude, yeah, we're drinking espresso martinis at 2 PM, and we're dropping them, dude. And then he takes me into his house, and he's like, "You ever rode one of these bikes?" And he gets me on an electrical bike, and he's doing this weird shit with his knee in his short shorts, and I'm rolling, dude, because in that moment I was around somebody who had the ability to like just live. And I realized like I'm actually a serious person. Like I'm almost too serious. And my wife is very much similar to me. And so when we hang around people like that, then we ended up going out in Laguna with him and his wife, and we end up at a Taco Bell at midnight. I haven't had Taco Bell in 10 years, bro. And we're eating gorditas and shit's going everywhere. And I just like...
Did he take you into the gummy tent?
No, dude. He asked me if I wanted one. I said, dude, I don't really mess with that shit. But it just like being in moments like that and like laughing and just not having to be anywhere and just being in the moment, like that's a gift. And so in certain people, I see that and I acknowledge like, dude, that has something to teach me to just kind of let go of the seriousness and the heaviness sometimes and just be, dude.
He's one of the greatest at doing that, man.
Yeah, dude.
He's such a high value man.
Yeah.
He's sharp as a tack, and he's funny as fuck, and he's just a good person.
Yeah.
Like I'll get these. He's truly one of my friends. Like it's not like, oh, we're friendly. Like Keith is my dude, right? And I'll get these just sweetest videos that he'll send me. Like I was just thinking about you, man, and it'll like just warm me up, and I'll do the same back to him. And I produced his show for years. Yeah. He's had several that he's done, and it's one of those like client relationships that supersedes the client. It's like he's my buddy. I would fucking do anything. Well, same with you. It's like everybody knows, like this is true. In my team, everybody knows whatever John Madsen needs, he gets. If his fucking shit comes in late on a Sunday, you're fucking getting it out, dude. Yeah. Same with Keith, dude. It's like, Yackie's the man. We're good. You get this. Now, for all you other clients, if you want to aspire to that level, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Get your shit on time.
Yeah, get it on time. No, but there's certain like things there that are just, it's just special, And he's been a really big supporter of my stand up. Like he'll be like, dude, send me your videos. Let me help you chop this up, and I'll send him stuff, and he'll give me great feedback as far as my stand up. I've been busting his balls lately though, because I've been like, bro, where the fuck is the John and Nin episode, man? I got to see Married Game. Like they were on your show. What the hell, man? He's like, no, we had a thing with the audio. It's coming. Like he's getting some guy to fix it.
Oh no, well, dude, Keith, we'll do it again, man.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's I've been like very aware of people in my life showing up, right? Whether it's you or anybody, and if I'm aware, there's always a gift, And so when I met Keith and his wife, it was like, that was the gift, right? Like that was me being shown somebody who could be supremely present and live in the moment and not be so serious. And I truly take stuff from other people. Well, I try to now really be aware, because it's like I can learn stuff from you. Like I can learn stuff from Keith. I can learn stuff from whoever. But I think that most people are going through life with their eyes closed and their ears shut. And it's like, you're not learning anything because you're not paying attention. And I used to be like that, right? I was like so self-centered on like me. I wasn't observing other people enough. So I think that just observing the gift like can enhance your life a lot.
That's a great thing, like that you're bringing up, and that's great advice. Like just observe more, be more present, look around, listen more. Like allow yourself to just be the fly on the wall for even just a moment.
Yeah.
Not retract or close yourself off, but just like be present and listen. Watch, see how things are moving. There's so much that you can learn that way. And guys like that, I mean, I know you met Garrett J. White as well. Like guys like that are just a treasure trove of those experiences, man, because they live at such a high level.
And Milet, I mean,
Right?
he's truly interested.
Yeah.
Right. Most people are in a conversation and they're like, oh, I'm thinking about what I'm going to say next. And it's like, you're talking, I'm not even paying attention. You can tell when people are like that, right? You're talking and their eyes are, glazed over.
They're on their phone.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like when you're interested in somebody, it's like, man, there's and truly observant, there's just a treasure chest of learning lessons that you can take.
Yeah, dude. It's fucking great. Well, I know you had a little bit of a time limit. One of the fun things we do on the show is we have a current event segment where we talk some shit.
Okay.
Producer B is going to give us some ideas of what we could talk about, and then we're going to kind of banter a little bit about it.
Let's do it.
Are you
man.
game?
I'm game, man.
Okay. What you got, B?
Well, for me, probably some of the most prominent news over the weekend. Tom Brady and Gronkowski were locked in, supposed to go to Oakland, and John Gruden blew it up at the last second.
Is that true?
Confirmed.
When was this? What time?
This was during the fights. So in 2020, when Tom Brady was signing, he did the HBO shop where he's like, "You're going to keep that mother effer over me?" Everybody's thinking it's Derek Carr and the Oakland Raiders because Dana White had the deal done. Tom Brady was looking for stuff, and at the last
how did
moment,
Dana White have the deal done?
because Dana's friends with Brady.
Okay,
and
got it.
Vegas, the team was moving to Vegas first year,
Okay.
convincing Brady to come. Gronk was going to come. ESPN was running a simulcast of the fights called The Gronks, and they had Dana White as a guest on the show during the prelims of the Salt Lake fight. And Gronk's like, "You remember when I was supposed to come to Vegas?" And spilled all the beans, and Dana White had to come out and confirm it.
No idea. And so
Could you imagine? You're a Raider. You're a former Raider.
I am, man. And I mean, Tom Brady has defied all odds. I was the
He's
guy.
what, 56 now? Is that what you
Dude, yeah, 56, complete dad bod, doesn't give a fuck. He
Different guy. That's Dante Culpepper, but
no, dude. You look up Tom Brady. He's on the beach with Giselle, and you're just like, dude, this dude's won 7 Super Bowls, man. He's pliable in his own words. But I was the guy who, when he went to Tampa in the first place, I was like, dude, like that was Belichick's system. Of course Brady was Tom Brady, but he had Wes Welker and all the stuff. Like he's old, man. I'm like, I was not betting on Tampa, but to see him go to Tampa and win another ring, I was just like, okay, like I was 100% wrong. That dude is
well, dude,
the GOAT.
it was inspiring because he was the one that changed the culture in Tampa.
Yeah,
He's like, we're not fucking around here, boys.
yeah,
Dude, to think that they could have been a Raider though, that
I know, man. I can't
walking through the encore and you see Tom Brady hanging out at the blackjack high
And
roll
Gronk,
table.
dude, I've seen Gronk at pool parties, man. That dude knows how to have fun. So I mean, being in Vegas, that would be a
so
that would be a scene.
Gronk and Tom have the same diet, right? Like they totally.
Yeah, bro. Well, I mean, Tom has a book on nutrition and stuff,
Yeah.
and who knows? But
Gronk has a pamphlet.
Gronk, dude. I just remember Gronk being in like gym shorts and a cutoff shirt at this pool party out in Scottsdale. Like I think I was 30 years old, and I wanted to hate on him because like I was out. The league told me I wasn't good enough, and so I was trying to prove that to myself in the moment that like I didn't need the NFL to be dope. And so I'm at the swimming pool trying to like flex up on everybody, and everybody was so enamored with Gronk. I'm like, and I go to his table and there's, chicks everywhere and just a whole bunch of people, wanting to be around Gronk. And I just remember him wearing some Reeboks that were like size 19s. And I was like, fuck Gronk, dude, who gives a shit? And anyways, we ended up kind of partying by their side, and phenomenal dude.
Dude, to bring it full circle, Gronk is the Keith Yackey of the NFL, bro.
Just has fun, man.
He just has fun.
Yeah.
And he's a fucking stud. Like, he's got the numbers.
Dude, I love watching those videos of him like celebrating and stuff, just living life, man. There's something.
His whole family is a bunch of monsters, man.
Yeah.
Like,
dude, and he's like, I mean, I walk in here, I'm 6'5", and somewhat athletic. Gronk is just
somewhat athletic. Fuck out of here, dude.
Gronk is just a supremely like giant man, dude.
Yeah.
Like I'm telling you, his shoes were like size 19. I'm like, I don't even know how he runs with those shits.
I wonder if he would ever get into fighting like as a UFC, because he'd be a monster of a heavyweight if he could land a punch.
Dude, who would want to get punched in the face like that, man?
There's a bunch of them that are in that league.
I know. I wouldn't.
There's a fighter named Shane Carville. He literally had like his fist or his hands were about the size of a baseball mitt.
Yeah.
He was a UFC heavyweight. Like, so when he would hold us, it was legitimately like, what's a size? A lunchbox.
Okay.
No, that's what it was. They nicknamed his hands the lunchboxes because like it was the size of a fucking lunchbox. Like, imagine that thing hitting you. No,
Dude,
thanks.
I mean, I went to my first UFC live event. It wasn't in Salt Lake. It was in San Diego. And I was just thinking about
crazy, man.
like entering the ring. And I mean, there's now there's tons of chicks fighting too. And I'm just like thinking about entering the ring like a savage. And I'm like, dude, that takes an amount of courage that you couldn't even consider. Like, I remember being in Oakland, like, we got the silver and black on. We're at the old Coliseum. The brick, like, before you go out to the stadium, like, the security would hold you back and let us know when it was time. And as soon as, like, Hell's Bells came on over the loudspeakers, we could run out. But we're, like, it was almost like a gladiator feel. Like, it was bricks on both sides, just, like, brick walls. And there'd be, like, I just remember some of our O-linemen that were like 6'7", super long hair, tatted up everywhere. And the feeling like in that moment, adrenaline just like bubbling, right? Yeah. And, some of the guys were like smashing their heads against the brick walls. It's like, dude, we're going out there to battle, right? But that's a different level from going into a cage where you're fighting somebody. And then in between rounds, they're hugging each other, and it's an art form to them. Yeah. Dude. Like, I like my face.
Do you know who Brendan Schaub is? Does that name ring a bell?
Yeah. Comedian and fighter, yeah.
Yeah, so he's talked about that a lot, that, like, it was terrifying.
Yeah.
Every time that it was time to go into that ring, like, he's puking. Like, he's like, he knows if he doesn't puke, he's fucked. Like, he's like, I got to puke.
Mike Tyson said he would cry, and he wanted to run out.
Terrified. And it's like, as a fan, we don't ever have access to that level of intensity of emotion. Like, if you think about it, like, we can subject ourselves in our imaginations to what we might think it would be based off of the data of what it could be. But dude, just the sheer terror of going to just, like, you're trying to break this man. And the Brendan talked about, like, the dance of your morality, because you're legitimately trying to truly hurt him. But you don't want to hurt him.
Right.
But I got to hurt him.
Yeah.
Like that dance. And it's like, whew, that's nuts, man.
Dude, it's crazy. I mean, even going back to the NFL stuff, like, every time we'd have a game, I'd be in the car, or like if we were away, we'd have police escorts. We'd be in the bus, and, they'd have like 5 police cars taking us to the stadium. And I'm just like, why do I even do this to myself? Yeah. Right? It's like the fear, the exhilaration is like there's an adrenaline.
And then you saw the game
rush.
check, you're like, oh, I remember now.
Yeah, no, but when you're in there, like, I mean, as soon as you're playing the game, it's all good.
Yeah.
But it's that lead up moment. And so I always, like, when I was at the fight, I'm just like looking at their faces. I'm like, they're putting on a brave face, but they are terrified walking into that ring. Or, even like Mike Tyson, when he was the most dominant fighter in the world, he will say that he was terrified too. So it's just a universal emotion.
There's a reason why there's a lot of kind of these men's coaches that are out there. Joe Rogan's one. He's not a men's coach, but he talks about this. He says that if you really want to learn how to calm your mind, learn to fight. Like, take jujitsu, karate, boxing, whatever. Like, get into combat because there's something that changes in your. He's like, and he goes, the most calm motherfuckers you will ever meet on this world are the ones that could kill you with their hands. He's like, they're easy peasy. Like, they know what they can do. Yeah. Like, learning how to control the savage.
Yeah.
Jordan Peterson talks about that. He, like, quotes Carl Jung, and he's like, which is more dangerous? The wolf that controls what it is, or the domesticated house dog. And it's like, dude, the domesticated house dog is way more dangerous because it's a piece of shit. It doesn't know what it can do. The wolf that controls it, at least he knows where he's at.
So good. I mean, think about it. Even like going back to school or in your youth, it's like the bullies usually have the loudest mouths.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like they're screaming their insecurity out, but it works on most people because it's like it scares them, right? It's like, oh, that guy's really confident or whatever. And as you get older, you start to realize that it's those guys that are probably the most insecure.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
And the good part is you get to see him when you go buy your In-N-Out burger because he's the one at the fry counter. But that's...
Yeah, exactly.
All right, what else you got, B?
Well, just with the UFC continuing the trend, Leon Edwards, probably the greatest head kick to finish Kamaru Usman in UFC
gnarly,
history.
dude.
Dana White's already talking about bringing the fights back to Salt Lake. I think that kind of cemented Salt Lake being around in the UFC due to the just what it is. And the Drake curse continues because he put $200K on Usman to win the fight, and he got knocked out with
The
56
Drake
seconds.
curse.
Yeah.
So
Drake bet on him?
Drake bets, and then
Drake bets, and most of the time, the teams that he bets on loses.
I feel for Drake, man. I felt like I went through this gambling
Were you a
season.
degenerate gambler for a while?
For a minute after I was done, I started getting into like gambling on college football.
Okay.
And I mean, not a lot of money, but enough to like really,
Scare
upset
you
me a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't gamble at all anymore because of it. And I felt like Drake, man. It was like I remember betting on this game, and like, long story short, I had Florida State by 17 over like Maryland or something, a game that I couldn't give a shit about, but I bet on it, so I'm watching it. And Florida's up by like 21 points, and they have the ball. All they have to do is nil. All they have to do is nil. They didn't nil. Running back fumbles the ball, and the very next play, Maryland throws a Hail Mary, scores in the end zone, and literally loses by 14 points. But I lose because I had 17,
yeah.
and I'm just like, dude, like, how did I control that? Like, it happened too many times for me to be like, literally, like, I'm controlling the output, the result somehow. I'm like, I'm freaking myself out. Get out of this. So, I mean, that's good to know, though. Maybe I'll test my theory.
We'll just anything that Drake's got a line on, we're going to go the opposite.
Yeah.
Easy cover.
Easy cover.
My first and only time betting, I put $250 on Utah to beat USC when Utah was number 3, and then Domo Hatfield talked smack to Juju Smith-Schuster, put him in the turf, and we lost 45-21. Never touched
never
on
again.
No,
It's not fun enough.
can't do it.
It's funny that you say that you don't gamble anymore. Dude, when I started making decent money, I stopped gambling too.
Dude.
When I was poor, I would throw it all on the table in Vegas, dude.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, man. I mean, because if you win 10 grand, you're like, okay, cool. But if you lose 10 grand, you're
stings.
pissed, bro.
Yeah.
So it's like it's not equal. Like 10 grand, be like, oh, dude, that's pretty cool. Like I'm happy. But literally, you lose 10 grand, and you're just like, dude, I wish I would have just went to Louis Vuitton and bought a bunch of shit.
At least I
That
could
would've
take
been
it
better.
home with me.
Exactly. Yeah.
Instead of the shitty memory of
Now I got smoke
tearing up the fucking ticket.
Now
'cause
I got smoke on my lungs, and I want to kill the person on fucking third base hitting on a 16. Right? It's like, dude. Speaking of funny, Entourage. You remember that episode when Ari Gold is playing?
Yeah, blackjack.
Fuck,
Vinny's
bro.
like he's like splitting. The guy split tens and it ended up winning. Yeah,
Ari's losing his Dude, that's one of the greatest series ever, man.
oh, it's so good. I had the privilege on my other podcast to interview Jerry Ferrara, who's
You
a
did?
turtle. Yeah,
Yeah, dude. I remember that. Yeah. What's Ari Gold's real name?
Jeremy
Piven?
Piven.
Get him. What has he done lately? Has he done
He's been
anything?
doing stand up.
Has he?
Yeah.
Is he funny?
He's really funny. He's not. He kind of ruffles feathers because in Hollywood they tried to cancel him because he played grab ass with some chicks or some shit. I don't know
Okay.
the real story.
That's okay if they're under 10, but not okay if it's
Exactly,
like they're
dude.
25.
Like if they've hit puberty, like that's too much. Anyway,
Got it. Good to know.
Way to go, Hollywood. All right. And he's been doing movies and stuff, and like I'm trying to think. He's been doing stand up. He came to Wise Guys here in Salt Lake. This was 3 years ago, and I went and saw it. And it was stories. It wasn't traditional stand-up. He gets a lot of heat from actual comics because they're like, this guy's not a fucking comedian. He's just using a celebrity to sell tickets. And it's like, so?
Yeah.
If he's entertaining. He had some really funny stories because, like, there was one. Do you remember that scene in Entourage where he says to Lloyd, he's like, Lloyd, has there been so much cum squirted in your eyes that you can't see straight out? He's like talking about it. He's like, we're going to be fucked and not fucked like the way you like to get fucked. Like he's going off, right?
Yeah.
He tells this story because his mom is like a true thespian. Like she's a student of the arts. She owns a theater in Chicago. Like she's all about that. And he's practicing lines with his mom. And he's telling this story where he's like having to do this thing. His mom's like, Jeremy, I think you should really accentuate come more. Like giving him things, tips on how to do this scene where he's talking about a dude getting bukkakied in his face. And he's like, yeah, my mom's kind of a savage that way. And we're all dying as he's telling the story.
Dude, he played Ari. Dude, I mean, that was one character.
I wish they would have done a spinoff.
Yeah, they should have.
Yeah,
almost like Better Call Saul, right? It's like Yeah, have one.
Well, Jerry Ferrara said something really interesting about that when I talked to him on my old podcast. He said that at the end of every day, he's like, Piven needed a shower. He's like, that guy brought it. He was 100% all the time. He's like, there's no way you can do Ari Gold as Ari Gold unless you're at 100. And he's like, and it would tax him. He's like, he'd be fucking cooked at the end of the day.
Dude, I mean, you just take that series and you have those characters. So good, man. Well, dude, Johnny Drama. You got Johnny Drama too that played that part just perfectly.
Okay, here's a little thing for you, dude. So Doug Ellen, who's the writer creator of Entourage, Kevin Connolly, who played E, and then Kevin Dillon, who played Johnny, they have a podcast together called Victory.
They do. I've never heard of it.
Fucking fantastic. They basically bring on everybody from Entourage and talk about Entourage the whole time.
I'm gonna sign on right after this.
It's such a great show because like you hear all these little insights, and as a fan of that show, I've watched that show 10 times. I don't know, maybe more. And especially with how things are nowadays with like the cancel culture and all this like woke shit, and everybody has to be PC about everything. Like it's a time where it's like, dude, every guy wanted that life. Every guy either wanted to be Vince or like wanted to be in Vince's crew and to like have that sort of access and the girls and the money and all that. Like everybody wanted that. So you're like peeking into this life that's like a dream life for you.
Yeah.
And you don't see that anymore nowadays.
Yeah, man, that was great.
Doug Ellen talked about it. He's like, dude, he's like, we could do Entourage again. It would be different though.
Really?
We would have to talk about wokeness and the topic of how we have to navigate would be a part of it as opposed to like just being these degenerates like they were before and fucking everything.
Yeah, it was a good time. That was a good time that they made it though.
Oh, dude, it was perfect.
It was pure.
It was pure. Best show ever. All right, what else you got? You got a last one for me, dude?
Last one is officially the Deshaun Watson saga ends with an 11-game suspension. After it was 6 by the judge and then Roger Goodell.
So what's the backstory in that? Because didn't he beat his wife or something?
No, I mean he literally went into every massage studio and would just like
I didn't know
solicit sex from every massage therapist. Correct?
Yeah, and had non-disclosure agreements provided by the Houston Texans. 24 open lawsuits. They're all settled now. But So
hold on. So let's recap. So he would go get a massage, and then he'd be like, "Hey, you want to finish this, please? Here's you have to sign this for me."
Pretty much, yeah.
Dude, I mean, if you look into the stories, there's some graphic stuff that
That's
these
hilarious.
massage therapists would talk about him.
Was he abusive or like rapey or anything, or was he just like asking?
I think like pretty rapey, dude.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah,
like pretty rapey. Dude.
I mean. Dude, the stories are like, damn, like I hope that's not true. But then, one person after another kept coming out. And so, I mean, to me, like just reading some of those articles, it's pretty light sentence in my opinion especially in today's culture. Yeah. It's like, you smoke weed and you're suspended, a whole year. There's like
Calvin Ridley did a one parlay on the Falcons winning. He was out with a season-ending injury. Just did one parlay on FanDuel, banned 16 games or the full season, no questions asked.
So there's sentences that for way lesser shit than this in this time period in America like seems super light.
Yeah. So is it safe to say that this was not a happy ending for Deshaun Watson?
Well, for him, I mean, to only be suspended 11 games is probably a happy ending.
So it's a happy ending. So he got what he wanted. I wonder if he had to have somebody sign that disclosure.
Dude, crazy, man. What's going on?
Dude, fucking athletes, dude. These guys that get all this money and access and shit like it. What part of your brain is broken to where you walk into, you don't know this person. Hey, can you grab my dick, please, and finish this job?
Finish this.
Finish him.
Finish him.
Dude.
Mortal Kombat.
Oh, dude, that's the best.
And it wasn't like he just found one that would do it over and over. He was
on a mission, dude.
Like every week a new one.
He was preaching the gospel, man. He was looking for new recruits.
It was like he felt power over finding a new one to finish him.
He's looking like fucking Bran, the three-eyed raven, when he's done.
Oh God,
I won. Anyway, okay. Well, that's pretty much it, dude. This is stand-up. We fuck around, we talk about good shit, and I'm super grateful you came on the show, man.
Dude, I'm grateful for being here, man. Like I said, I truly respect what you've done and how you've grown and how, you're doing awesome shit in your life, and just being here is kind of full circle for me, because we did do that podcast probably 2016, 2015 maybe. Probably 2015.
No, it's before that, because we moved out of that house in 15.
So it was like 2014.
Yeah.
And to see kind of both of our lives kind of take hold of where I think both of us knew that we had it in us, we just couldn't access it in that moment.
Dude, I'll give you props back, man. Like, I watch what you're doing, and it inspires me every time.
Thank you.
Every day. I'm like, dude, fucking Matt. I remember there's two hilarious stories I remember about you and your lovely wife. My wife and I were at your place in Draper. We were drinking wine one night, and Nin was wanting to, be an affiliate for our buddy Terry Shanahan's program.
Yep.
And you're like, the internet ain't fucking going nowhere, dude. Like, you're talking shit about how the internet, you can't sell anything on the internet. And she's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, she's the right one here, John.
She's always right, by the way. Yeah.
That's going to be a clip. I'll give it to her.
Dude, give it to her.
She'll be like, of course, I need to know that all the time.
She needs to know that all the time.
All the time, yeah. So there was that. And then there was, what was the other one? It was along the same lines, where it's just like, watching you do what you're doing is really inspiring.
I was adamant that I couldn't sell fitness online.
I know.
That was one of those beliefs, right?
Yeah.
Like, now I sell a shitload of fitness online, but in that moment, I remember that, like, I was getting pissed off at both of you.
Worked up. And it was funny to me. I'm like, this is not the hill to die on, bro.
My wife will do this, but actually, it's because she's right. She'll like this. Like, she'll. I feel like she's in cahoots with people, and they're teaming up against me. It's like her and Bryce in this moment was like, "No, dude, you've lost it," and I'm like, "It won't work." And it's like, long story short, about a lot of what we talked about, like, how could it work if that was my belief system back then? That was why I was where I was at, right? And so it was like ripping that shit out was a lot of work, man. But I'm glad you were able to see that kind of.
Well, dude, I remember that with a smirk on my face, because of how well you're doing.
Yeah.
And how those two guys, if they were to meet, you would beat the shit out of that guy.
Beat the shit out
You'd be
of
like,
that
this
guy.
fucking idiot. What is he talking about? Is he stupid? I don't get this.
Yeah.
But because of how, and I look at that going like, because I've had to, I'm not even close to where I want to be when it comes to everything, but like, I've had to really fix some shit in my head. Mm-hmm. And it's like, everybody around me that in this beautiful circle, the upgrade guys, you, like some of the clients I've had, they all have these stories where like, dude, I was so fucked up in the head. And then this one thing happened, and then another thing happened. It's like, I'm in the middle of that process of those things happening. And I'm like, and I'm still stumbling towards massive success. Mm-hmm. Like, nothing feels fluid and like easy and everything. Well, sometimes it feels easy. Nothing feels like just smooth.
Yeah, bro.
It's more like, I'm just, dude, I'm like drunk walking towards success, and it works. Yeah. I'm getting there,
Dude, you keep one foot in front of the other, man. That's what separates those who do and those who don't.
Yeah, I love it, man. Well, where should we send people to find out who John Madsen is outside of this interview?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Instagram would probably be the easiest space. That's where I keep up with most people who want to interact with me. It's at John Madsen Official. And then you produce my show that has 225 episodes. Yep. And you can find that on iTunes, the show with John Madsen, and it's on all the other platforms too.
So ladies, make sure you bring a towel when you watch his Instagram stuff, because he is quite an attractive man. So just make sure you can handle the.
Thank you, bro.
All right, guys. Anyway, thanks for watching Stand Up. If you've enjoyed this episode, please share it, subscribe to the YouTube channel, engage. Send me a DM if you have any questions that you want me to pull up on anybody I've got coming on here, and take it easy, friends. See you.